Stories require tension. There are a ton of ways that tension can be implemented, but the most common ones involve communication between characters. What characters know or don't know in relation to other characters is a very powerful tool. Think about how many stories involve scenes where a character learns something and they have to tell someone else before it's too late, or when a character needs to get help in a dangerous situation. That might initially seem easy, but you always need to make sure the reasons why the characters find themselves in these situations is realistic. And with that, there is a moment in time you need to pay attention to.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. 3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone.
See, stories that take place before the last decades of the 20th century have to account for communication being slow or otherwise unreliable. In the 90s and early 2000s, you have to account for some people having mobile phones and some not, while some can text and some can't. Plus, coverage wasn't nearly as widespread and reliable as it is today. But touchscreen smartphones as we have today change just about everything. Odds are you have a smartphone. In fact, you might very well be watching this very video on one. Think about the device for a minute. Maybe you're young enough that they seem quite normal, but it wasn't that long ago when something like it would be considered impossible. It's a wireless phone that has reliable coverage in North America, Europe, and so on. It can also text, load web pages, take good photos, shoot good videos, stream content live, write and store documents, print, give directions, tell you the exact date and time, translate other languages, play music, play videos and movies, record memos, buy things both on the internet and in person, control other devices such as smart light switches and TVs, monitor your health, tell you the weather forecast, and most of all, it can even be a flashlight. And batteries usually at least last most of a day, if not multiple days, so if you own one, you can still get continuous utility out of it, even when away from main power for a day or so. With that, it should be relatively obvious where I'm going with this. As smartphones have become an immensely powerful tool that resides in the pockets of a growing majority of people, writers need to be conscious of that when writing their characters in 2 ways. The first is that, in any story that takes place in the present or future, needs to account for most characters likely having access to instant communication, information, and entertainment. You will either need to clearly take away those capabilities, a stolen phone, no service area, EMP, lost in the wilderness for a week, and so on. Another option would be to incorporate the technology into the story, characters trying to figure out what information is real and what isn't, or maybe the classic trope of someone finding themselves in trouble during a phone call. In any case, the existence of such powerful tools in real life means they cannot be ignored in stories that take place now. There is an interesting effect, though. Writers today might not realize how much of today's world has changed because of the wide adoption of smartphones. In stories that take place a long time ago, writers have to make sure they account for how unreliable communication was. Payphones existed, but they weren't everywhere, and people had to find them. CB radio was available for much of the 20th century, but its range is limited. Shortwave gets farther, but the equipment has always been relatively expensive compared to CB. My point is, it wasn't considered strange in most situations where you didn't know where someone was for a day or two. When writing a story that takes place in the past, just know that if a character is kidnapped or killed or otherwise missing, it might be an entire day before other characters would realistically suspect something has happened. We're talking about a time that if you left your house to go shopping, then you were completely off the grid until you came back. It was normal, so no one thought anything of it. Conversely, in stories that take place in the future, you have to account for how advanced something like iPhones and Androids are these days, because in a futuristic setting where technology has progressed further, it's not a good idea for the world to be using anything less convenient and helpful than a real smartphone. Anything that's harder to carry or provides less functionality is just not going to be realistic. I hope this is a helpful little bit of insight for writing stories in regards to the sheer magnitude of power the little rectangle in your pocket provides to you, and how to handle it all with your characters. Keep writing.